Hey, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a decluttering video of this overstuffed Alex jar full of all my palettes. So the first one I'm showing off is my Pro palette from Give Me Glow. This is full of Anastasia, Makeup Geek, and Looxi shadows, as well as a few Urban Decay, a few MAC, I think I said that. Yeah, so this is my inspiration for doing this because, as you could see, that has just about every color under the sun. This is one of my other favorite palettes at the moment. This is the Jaclyn Hill times Morphe palette. Absolutely love this palette. I'm sure you guys have heard a ton about this palette. It performs really well. It's really inexpensive, and it's just one of those do everything shadow palettes. Here is another inspiration for this. I recently started getting into some really expensive luxury shadows like the Natasha Denona Sunset palette, and I told myself when I decided to get this during the VIB Rouge sale that if I was going to do this, I had to declutter some of my other palettes and start thinking about what I really love. And I really love Natasha Denona's formula. They blend so well, the mattes especially. And the metallics are so shimmery and so true to pigment, and they wear beautifully. So here is another Natasha Denona palette. I have a couple of them. This is the Potted Shadows from her 5-pan palette, and then I have a couple Laura Mercier shadows in there as well. So these shadows are just stunning. As you can see, I'm going to swatch some of my favorite duochromes that she has. So beautiful. That is really how I started falling in love with her makeup. I guess I don't have any other of her makeup aside from her eyeshadows. I'll have to change that soon. Next, I'm going to show you guys her holiday palette from this year. I absolutely adore this. Holding on to it for sure. So I have a couple boxes next to me, and I have a box for giveaway, trash, and I'm going to put the ones that I want to keep next to me or on top of my desk. This is one of my very well-loved palettes. This is the World Traveler palette from Anastasia. Oldie but goodie, absolutely love it, even though it's super old and probably expired. Next, I have the Modern Renaissance, another very well-loved palette. I'm sure you guys have heard plenty about this. Great palette, reach for it pretty often, and I love the mauve tones and reds in there, so I'm definitely going to hold on to that one. I'm a big fan of Anastasia. I haven't tried her recent palettes, but I definitely love a lot of her older ones. Then we have the Makeup Geek times Manny collaboration palette. I absolutely adore this one. This is such a great palette. I still reach for it, especially like if I'm going somewhere, because honestly it has everything you need when it comes to mattes and then a couple pops of color. Next, we have the Naked on the Run palette. This is a palette that I loved when it first came out, and I absolutely adored it, but I just don't reach for it anymore. I've used up the extras in there, and to be honest, it's probably expired, so I feel like it's time to let this one be trashed. Next, we have this Clinique palette that I got a couple years ago from the holiday collection for Christmas as a present. It's a really cute palette, but to be honest, the formula is just not that great. Even the blushes, like Clinique blushes and shadows in their typical form aren't bad, but these ones, they just don't show up on my eye. I don't know if it's my skin tone, but I'm pretty sure it's actually the formulas, so for that reason I'm going to go ahead and trash that one. It's probably expired, which is probably why it's not working. Then we have the Kylie Jenner Holiday 2016 palette. Such a cool palette. When she first posted pictures of it, I was like, oh my gosh, I need that. I love those jewel tones because they're so grungy, but on the eyes, they just don't work. They take a lot of building, a lot of work to blend, a lot of work to not be patchy and get true color. It's just not my favorite palette. The metallic bronze and silver are nice, and the light nudes are nice as well, but everything else just doesn't perform the way I want it to. So that one is going to definitely have to be a trash just because I don't even want to give that to someone that I know and love. Then we have the Winkylux palette. I think this is called the Kitten palette. This came in a Boxycharm. It's actually a really good palette. The formula is really nice. The metallics perform well. The mattes blend well. Good palette overall, and I would hold on to it, but as you guys can see, it is definitely overrepresented in my collection, so for that reason I'm going to go ahead and pass this along. Pretty sure I have a couple people in mind who might like it. Next we have this little Blinc palette, also another Boxycharm one, also overly represented in my collection, so for that reason, even though it's really pretty, I'm going to go ahead and pass it along. Then we are going to be talking about the Limecrime Venus palette. I know Limecrime has a lot of controversy, but honestly, I love this palette, and I loved it when it first came out. It was like the original burgundy, peachy, orangey, warm tone palette that was so unusual, so cool. Then we have the Anastasia Artist Palette. I really love this palette when it first came out. I really wanted to make that unicorn shade work, so I'm trying to swatch for you guys. But no matter what I did, even with a white base, it always looked very greenish or turquoise on my lids. So for that reason, just some of the shadows don't perform how I want them to in this palette. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and toss that one. Then we have the IT Cosmetics Celebration Naturally Pretty palette. I just never reach for this. I hear the formula is really good. I've tried it a couple times. I have no complaints, but also nothing to remember. But that being said, I think my mom would really like it, so I'm going to pass it off. Then I have this Pure Soiree Diaries palette. This is so cute. I got it in a Boxycharm. As you can see, it has 4 colors, and it has a neutral light tone, a medium tone, and then a shimmery tone of the same kind of shade family. Super cute, but I just haven't reached for it very much yet, so I'm going to hope that with decluttering I'll reach for it more. This is MAC Dusty Rose x9. I got this for my birthday, and I really do like it, especially as a travel palette. Then we have a couple NYX palettes. We have this one that I got from Gin Beauty, and we have one that I got for an Ulta birthday reward. Such a good reward from Ulta. Thank you. I really love this warm tone one. That's the birthday one. And I really like the other one just because good travel palette. It has a nice matte. It has good crease shades. So I think I end up keeping both of them. Plus they don't take up much room. Then we have the Graveyard Girl Swamp Cream palette. I adore it. The Master by Mario Makeup by Mario Master palette. I really love this. Really nice formula. Great palette. Don't reach for it enough, but hopefully with a smaller collection I'll be able to see it easier. Then we have the Self-Made palette. I really love the duochromes in this palette, so I'm going to hold on to that one for sure. And yes, I'm holding on to it. Then we have the Vice palette by Urban Decay. Spoiler alert, I ended up pulling this one out just because it does have a few shades in there that are very unique to my collection, the greens and the purples. So I ended up holding on to it. Then we have this Jaclyn Hill Favorites palette from Morphe. Super beat up, very well loved. I adored this when it came out. It was like my everything. But yeah, it's time for it to be trashed because it's pretty old. And now we have the 35O palette. I really like this when it came out, but as you guys can see, my collection has grown on to bigger and better things. Nothing against Morphe. They have a pretty good formula, but I just feel like it's not my favorite. This is another palette that's not my favorite. This is from Pinky Rose. They're a small indie brand. I really like some of their other products, but unfortunately for me, this shadow palette in particular, the I Said Yes, smells very chemically. It smells like as soon as you open it, like it smells like something that should not go on your face. And sometimes I even get a headache when I use it. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and toss it. Then we have these little Smashbox palettes. I really love the Ablaze palette. And then I also have, I'm not sure what this one's called. It's the smoky one with like the purples and grays. I'm going to hold on to the warm one because it's perfect for traveling. And I'm going to pass off the smoky gray one to my mom just because, or maybe my sister, because I feel like it's more their jam than my jam. Then I have this cargo palette. I also got this in some sort of subscription box. I just don't use it. There's just not enough dimension when it comes to the tones. As you can see, the colors just really blend together, and the same is true once you put it on your eyelids. Then we have this this Urban Decay Alice in Wonderland's shadow box. I adore this. This is definitely more of a collector's item. It is their old school retro packaging and I love it. I love it so much. I don't use the palette as much as I could, but maybe I will now that my box is a little bit decluttered. My drawer is a little bit decluttered. That was a Real Her palette, and this is a Tarte Rainforest in the Sea palette, both from Boxycharm. Don't reach for either of them, so I'm going to go ahead and pass both of those on just because I have other things I'm reaching for and they're not unique enough to hold on to. Then this is an It Cosmetics little holiday palette. It's a very purpley toned palette. Really nice formula, but just not something that I reach for. So for that reason, I'm going to find it a better home. Then I think... No, not yet. These are some Wet n Wild palettes. They're pretty old, and I have a Milani one. Seriously, they're pretty old, so it's time for them to go into the trash, and I don't really reach for them. Then we have this Urban Decay palette. I don't really reach for it. I got it pretty recently, like within the last couple years, so I know a very good home for it. As you can tell, most of those shades I have in my single shadow palette anyway. This is just an empty shadow palette, and I need to put those in my Z palette or something. Then we have my Pure Cosmetics. This is a Naked 3 palette, and then we have a Naked 2 palette and a Naked 1 palette. I think I showed that to you pretty quickly, but basically the Pure Cosmetics one is a Naked 3 dupe, and I like it a lot. I like the way it performs. I really love the Naked palettes. I love Naked 2. It's what I wore on my wedding day. Naked 1 was like my original, like, one of my original high-end palettes that I just, like, fell in love with. So for that reason, I'm holding on to those three, even though the first two are pretty old. The 1 and 2 are pretty old. 3 is pretty new. But so 1 and 2 I just hold on to for memory's sake. And then I have Naked Smoky. This is very different from anything else that I have in my collection. As you can quickly tell, we haven't really seen many grays and like those bluishy slate gray shades in my collection yet. And so for that reason, I have to hold on to this just because I feel like every collection needs some cool tone shades, right? That you're definitely going to get that itch for the cool tone look eventually, so that's why I'm holding on to it. Also, it doesn't hurt that Urban Decay has a pretty awesome formula, and the packaging is really cool on that palette. Then we have the Sweet Peach palette. This is a really good palette. I don't reach for it just because my collection's too cluttered, so hopefully this declutter will change that. This is another palette I don't reach for very much. It's a Tarte holiday palette. I just don't reach for it because since it's so big, it goes in the back of my drawer and it gets stuck behind everything else and it's too much of a hassle to pull out. But now that my collection's going to be half the size, there's no reason why I won't be able to use this. And spoiler alert, since I decluttered, I've used it 3 times. Then we have this glitter palette. This is also from Pinky Rose. This one you unfortunately do have to use glue with. It's not one of those ones where you don't have to use any glue. I do like having this on hand. It's great for a lot of versatile looks. And then that's just one that I'll throw into my single eyeshadow pile. So here's everything that I'm keeping. I believe I'm keeping a total of 25 palettes, I want to say, or 24. And I think I ended up tossing 9 and giving away 11, if I'm correct, something like that. So basically, I gave up about half of my collection. I feel really good about this declutter overall. I think I did a fantastic job. And since I did this, because I did this maybe like a month ago, I've been cycling my palettes a lot more and reaching for things in that drawer a lot more often than I was before. So if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe because I have a lot of other declutter videos waiting on my phone to be edited. So be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!